Captain Marcus Chun had faced down plasma cannons, survived 3 different wars, and once talked his way out of an execution on Kepler 442b. But nothing, absolutely nothing, had prepared him for the sight of Commander Zerathix removing her ceremonial battle armor piece by piece in the dim lighting of his quarters aboard the Terran Defiance. It had started as a joke. A stupid, human joke. The Vakari Empire had surrendered after witnessing what humans called strategic stubbornness, their refusal to yield even when facing impossible odds. 3 solar cycles of brutal warfare had ended not with the Empire's superior technology or numbers, but with their growing realization that humans would literally fight until the last breath, taking as many enemies with them as possible. Commander Zerathix, 7 feet of elegant chitinous grace and the Vakari Empire's most decorated warrior, had been assigned as liaison officer for the peace negotiations. For weeks, she had studied human customs, human language, and human psychology with the methodical precision her species was known for. "Your species fascinates me, Captain Chun," she had said earlier that evening, her 4 amber eyes reflecting the starlight streaming through the observation deck's viewport. "In all our databases, in all our projections, we never anticipated such illogical determination." Marcus had laughed, running a hand through his dark hair. "That's humans for you. Too stupid to know when we're beaten." "Not stupid." Her mandibles clicked thoughtfully, a gesture he'd learned indicated deep consideration. "Something else entirely. Something we do not possess." They had been sharing what humans called drinks, though Zerathix's biochemistry required a specialized synthetic alcohol that Marcus's science team had developed. The conversation had flowed easily, surprisingly so. Despite their vastly different evolutionary paths, they had found common ground in their military experiences, their love of ancient literature, and their shared appreciation for the strange beauty of deep space. "What do you want from this peace, Captain?" she had asked suddenly, her melodious voice taking on a formal tone. "What does humanity truly desire from the Vakari Empire?" Marcus had been feeling relaxed, perhaps more so than he'd felt in years. The war was over. His crew was safe. The woman alien, his mind corrected, though the distinction felt increasingly meaningless sitting across from him, was brilliant, graceful, and had been showing what he could only interpret as genuine interest in him as a person, rather than just a military officer. So he had grinned, raised his glass, and said with characteristic human irreverence, "You." He had meant it as a joke, a playful deflection of a serious diplomatic question, the kind of casual flirtation that humans engaged in without thinking. Zerathix had gone very still. All 4 of her eyes had focused on him with laser intensity. Her elegant head had tilted at precisely 15 degrees, an angle he now realized indicated profound consideration among her people. "You want me," she had repeated, as if testing the words. I mean, Marcus had started to backtrack, to explain human humor, to apologize for the cultural misunderstanding he was certain he'd just created. But Zerathix had stood up, all 7 feet of her, and her hands had moved to the clasp of her ceremonial armor. "Then you shall have me," she had said simply. Now, in his quarters, Marcus watched in stunned silence as she methodically removed each piece of the intricate battle gear that was both protection and symbol of her rank. The chest plate etched with the history of her victories, the arm guards that had deflected human plasma fire, the leg armor that had carried her across a dozen battlefields. Beneath the armor, she wore a simple, form-fitting garment that revealed the elegant curves of her alien physiology. Her carapace gleamed with an inner light, patterns of bioluminescence tracing delicate spirals across her skin. She was beautiful in a way that defied human understanding of beauty, yet somehow transcended it entirely. "Zerathix," Marcus said carefully, his voice hoarse, "I think there's been a misunderstanding." She approached him slowly, her movements carrying the fluid grace of a predator, but her eyes, all 4 of them, held something tender. "Has there been? You said you wanted me. I find that I want you as well. Where's the misunderstanding?" "I was joking." It's a human thing. We say things we don't necessarily mean, but you do mean it. It wasn't a question. Her hand, surprisingly warm, touched his cheek. I have studied human micro-expressions, Captain. Your pupils dilated. Your breathing changed. Your chemical signature shifted. You may have spoken in jest, but the sentiment was genuine. Marcus felt his breath catch. You've been studying my chemical signature? A sound that might have been laughter escaped her. For weeks. Just as you have been studying mine, though perhaps less consciously. Did you think I had not noticed how you lean toward me when we speak? How your voice softens? How you have memorized the patterns of my bioluminescence? Heat rose in Marcus's cheeks. She was right, of course. Somewhere between the formal diplomatic meetings and the quiet conversations about literature and philosophy, his interest had shifted from professional to personal. He had noticed the way her eyes brightened when she was amused, the graceful efficiency of her movements, the keen intelligence behind her questions. My species does not engage in deception about such matters, Zarathix continued. When we desire something, we state it clearly. When we are desired, we respond honestly. It is refreshing to encounter a human who, even in jest, speaks truth. She stepped closer, and Marcus could smell something like cinnamon and starlight on her skin. You fascinate me, Marcus Jun. Your species' capacity for hope in the face of impossible odds. Your ability to find humor even in the darkest moments. Your willingness to fight not just for victory, but for the idea that fighting itself matters. Zara single quotes IX. I have lived for 300 of your years, she said softly. I have conquered worlds and commanded fleets. I have never met anyone like you, like your species. You are chaos and beauty and stubborn, wonderful life all woven together. Marcus reached up, covering her hand with his own. And you're the most incredible being I've ever encountered. Brilliant, deadly, honorable, and apparently capable of seeing something worthwhile in a wisecracking human military officer. Then, where's the misunderstanding? She asked again, her bioluminescent patterns shifting the colors he was beginning to recognize as contentment. Marcus smiled, the tension leaving his shoulders. I guess there isn't one. Though next time, maybe warn. A guide before you start taking off the armor. I nearly had a heart attack. Her mandibles clicked in what he now knew was amusement. I will consider it. Though I believe your cardiovascular system is more resilient than you give it credit for. As she leaned down to press her forehead against his, a gesture of intimacy among her people that somehow felt perfectly natural. Marcus reflected on the strange turns life could take. He had gone to war expecting to die fighting aliens. Instead, he had found peace, understanding, and something that transcended the boundaries between species. Outside his viewport, the stars wheeled in their ancient patterns, indifferent to the small miracle taking place aboard one human vessel. But Marcus Chun, holding an alien warrior who had chosen to be vulnerable with him, thought the universe had never looked more beautiful.